Ukrainian fighter pilot Nadiya Savchenko has been imprisoned in Russia since last summer after she was kidnapped by Russian-backed militants in East Ukraine and forcibly taken across the border. Russia accuses her of complicity in the murder of 2 journalists, charges which have been widely condemned as fabricated. The 33-year-old is currently being held in pre-trial detention, her fate having become deeply entwined with diplomatic efforts to end the year-long conflict in East Ukraine, where Russian-backed militants are fighting Ukrainian forces. Leading efforts to drum up support internationally for Savchenko's release has been her lawyer, Mark Feygin, who was recently in Washington to speak with lawmakers about what they can do to put pressure on Russia. In an exclusive interview with Natalka Pisnya of Ukrainian broadcaster TSN, Feygin explained who in Washington is on Savchenko's side, why the fight for her freedom will be a long one, and why her release must not be used as a bargaining chip in negotiations between Russia and the West.
I know you met Senator McCain about Nadiya Savchenko's case. Did you reach some kind of agreement on it?
We're counting on McCain's support in the Senate in pushing through Resolution 50, which calls for Savchenko's release. We want the term prisoner of war to be used in her case and not the term hostages, upon which everyone has already agreed. Most people, even those who are very sympathetic to our cause in Congress, in the Senate and in the State Department, are not inclined to push the situation to a point of recognizing people being held in Russia as prisoners of war at a legal level.
Let's speak more specifically. Who's on your side? McCain's on your side, correct?
The Republicans are on our side. Many Democrats and the Congressional Ukrainian Caucus are on our side. There aren't any political preferences here. What we have here is more a division between the executive and the parliament. The State Department and the Obama administration are more cautious. That's normal. They would not want to take responsibility for recognizing Russia as an aggressor state before that step is taken by key international organizations. I wouldn't like to list people by name. Those preventing the decision are not doing so because they are against it, but because the legal side of the question remains extremely difficult. In international conflicts, the Geneva Convention assumes that 2 sides are participants if they recognize themselves as such. But there are cases when a country can be recognized as a participant even if it does not itself admit to it. But anyway, this is Russia, not some place like Zimbabwe. Russia is a co-founder of the UN. It could use its veto to block a resolution describing events in Ukraine as an international conflict according to the Geneva Convention. What we have here then is a case of politics interfering in legal questions.
When might the voting take place?
The resolution has gone through committee. It will take some more time for discussion in the committees and commissions of Congress and the Senate. There are no votes against. It's just that on the question of recognizing Savchenko as a prisoner of war will also need some time, so that the congressmen I visited bring amendments to the bill. I've not met any objections against this.
From the point of view of international law, Nadiya is a Ukrainian citizen illegally taken to Russia. The accusations against her are fabricated. How well is that situation understood here in Washington?
Speaking from a purely formal point of view, Nadiya is being held because she has been charged. But speaking politically, she's being held because Russia cannot acknowledge its responsibility in the charges that have been brought against her and for the way in which it all came about. The kidnap of an innocent person, a foreign citizen at that. Someone put a balaclava on her head, put her in a car and took her across the border into Russia.
Do people here in the U.S. understand that?
You know, they do understand. Only an idiot could believe Russia's statements, including the ones at the UN, where they claimed that Savchenko crossed the border herself. There are no idiots here. Everyone understands what's really going on.
Yes, but at the same time, when Nadiya was on a hunger strike, nobody here took any action. Why do you think that was?
Because the topic needs to be articulated in a certain way. It was difficult to articulate it here in America. Now it's easier because there were false statements on Savchenko's case from the State Department. The main figures of the establishment also drew attention to the case. But still, it's not an American story. Most people, if they're not Ukrainians or connected with Ukraine, are not very interested in this case. And a parliament is, after all, a reflection of the feelings of the voters. So what we really need here is for there to arise a demand from the public that there be a solution to this problem.
Let's take a step back. Nadiya was on a hunger strike day 1, day 2, day 15. Meanwhile, some just went about their usual business, going for a jog, having breakfast. Others came out to protest at the embassy, and still others were photographed holding signs with the tag Free Savchenko. To what extent did all this mean anything to her?
She knew all about it and followed everything closely. A separate point is that the hunger strike was done on her own initiative. I tried to convince her she didn't need to do it, that it was extremely dangerous for her health, but it didn't help. Because the task of Defense Counsel is to preserve the health and well-being of the person to whom they're providing legal help, but not at the expense of the defendant's health. But Nadiya was firm in her convictions and went on hunger strike because she believed that that was the only way she herself, and not her lawyer, could fight for her release. She knew about the great public support. We, of course, told her everything, and she was herself engaged in correspondence. It all inspired her during that rather lengthy hunger strike.
Mark, give us your prediction on what will come next. What will happen when the U.S. gets involved? What will happen if the U.S. remains on the sidelines?
If the US steps in, then Putin will insist on negotiations on a more global scale, not only over Savchenko, but rather a Yalta II, so to speak. Let's divide the world, he'll say. Crimea will give to me, and I'll give you the Donbass. NATO will go here, this will go there, and so on. But we don't need to agree upon such a format. What we need are some sort of preconditions, and Savchenko should be a key precondition, and her release. And then we can proceed to some more large-scale negotiations. The US needs to adopt tactics which are not tactics of concession, and vice versa. Tactics only of compromise won't work either. There should be a set of actions. Savchenko isn't a bargaining chip. This isn't Yalta II. Savchenko is a precondition to ensure Putin acts in accordance with the law. All the documents proving her innocence are available. Both the Kremlin and its allies know that Savchenko did not commit any crimes. We have to make the Kremlin release Savchenko in order for negotiations to begin. Her release should not come as a consequence of the start of negotiations.
What do they think about Savchenko in Russia?
Opinions vary in Russia. It's tough to talk about the mind of the average Russian when it's been quite simply poisoned by propaganda. Because of propaganda, people don't really know how to perceive what's going on. They don't understand what these people want from Savchenko, to punish her or to kill her or what. There are some people who realize that she's innocent and she really was abducted and taken across the border into Russia. But they still think she should be punished. Why? Because they think she's a symbol of the fascist Ukrainian junta. It's symptomatic of the current state of affairs.
То есть это уже стадия такая, знаете, симптоматика.